for broadcast possibilities and to get your podcast started, contact us 879-4319. 879-4319. Be heard on Radio St. George, Radio Dixie, and a podcast studio. Just a few of the great things happening at Dixie State University.
Welcome to the podcast. We Do Recover with Jared Miller, your host.
And I'm Dr. Terry Sellers, your co-host.
This is a podcast about addiction, but more importantly, about recovery.
We want to talk about what successful recovery can look like.
Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center and the St. George Hilton Garden Inn.
Welcome back to another episode of We Do Recover. I'm your host, Jared Miller. Today in the Recovery Lounge, I'm joined by your co-host, Dr. Terry Sellers, our favorite producer, Sean Denovan, and your featured guest, Amanda Marker. This podcast is recorded in sunny St. George, Utah. Episode 007 is brought to you by Steps Recovery Center, where addiction ends and healing begins. And listen, if your loved one needs help, give them a call. 801-800-4182. 8142. Let me
do that again. Do that again, just for that.
Yeah, 801-800-8142.
Perfect.
There we go.
Yep.
The hiccups out of the way.
Love it.
So, what is new and good in the rich and famous life of Dr. Terry Sellers?
Whoa! I don't know who has a rich and famous life. Not me.
That's you, buddy.
Not me. Not much. I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but I got a quote from a dentist to fix some problems I have in my mouth, and the quote was $37,000. Therefore, when I say some problems in my mouth, I don't mean I've got a cavity or two. So that's new and good, or it's at least new. That'll make me not rich.
Yeah, that kind of money will definitely put a dent in your wallet.
For sure. And I'm down here in sunny St. George. For those of you listening that don't know St. George, it's hot. Today's going to be about 100 degrees, which is not like ridiculously hot for St. George, but it's still pretty warm, and got a golf game tomorrow, so I'm excited.
104 feels a lot better than 115. It's been hot lately. It's been hot. Amanda Marker.
Amanda Marker.
Can you tell the listeners what's new and good in your life?
What's new and good? There's lots of new and good stuff going on. I've been working a lot. I am working something I love doing, so it's really kind of exciting to wake up and do what you love every single day. And I just got a lot of exciting stuff going on, so it definitely is a good time.
Are you a workaholic?
I am. It's kind of ridiculous.
Cross addiction.
Yeah. I work on that as well, though.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Erase and replace. Remember? Oh,
erase and replace.
That's a blast from the past.
Yeah.
That was episode, 3?
Yeah.
2 or 3.
The problem is there is a such thing as cross addiction, right? Here comes the doctor
absolutely.
side of me. And some people get a rush of dopamine in their midbrain from working. Mm-hmm. And that can really be a problem. One of the things that we need to do in recovery, and everybody knows this, but we need to take time to care for ourselves.
Beautifully said. Sean Denovan. So you were saying you were getting ready for school. School has started. What's up with that?
It's going okay.
Just okay?
It's just okay. You know, Zoom calls and people that are remote and then they're here and then it's vice versa. It's just a little crazy. But I'm surprised you haven't pointed out the one glaring difference.
I'm about to point it out.
The one huge glaring difference.
About to point it out. Hold on. You guys don't see Sean Denovan on camera, but Sean has had a beard every time we have recorded this podcast. Sean currently does not have a beard, and I don't totally recognize him.
Full-on baby face. Yeah, about November, I was like, I'm going to try this. You know, and then it came out gray. I put dye in it, and I went to some professional shaver guys. Yeah.
Just weren't loving it.
All right.
Then I asked Facebook what I should do, and then my wife got mad because she's like, I told you what to do. Why are you asking Facebook what to do? Anyway, so I got the baby face thing going on this week.
There you go. There you go.
Amanda Marker, let's get to it. Thank you so much for coming on. We are so excited. Tell us where you're at, and start off by telling the listeners what your life looks like in recovery today.
Right on. Well, first off, thank you for having me on, you guys. It's kind of been a nervous thing I've been like nervous about all week, but I'm here. I'm ready to kind of do this thing.
Stop the nervousness and tell us who you are. You just have to tell us who you are. There's nothing nervous about that.
So I am a mom to 3. I work from home. I launched a new business. I'm also a health and fitness coach. I do a lot of peer support work digitally with people in recovery. So that's kind of where I'm at as far as my own recovery and the work that I'm doing. I've worked through a program with a recovery coach. And we're actually working together, building other programs. So my recovery every day is just kind of helping other people right now.
Isn't that a common theme? It really has been amongst a lot of guests we've had on, like service work and giving back and reaching back to help people.
But who are we inviting on our podcast, right? Successful people.
Yeah, examples.
And so part of success in recovery has got to be giving back, because we're seeing just the same theme over and over. So it's been awesome.
I would say 5 years qualifies as a success story. Amanda.
Yes.
You have 5 years? You're coming up on 5 years? Remind me.
5 years, yes. My last day that I used was August 12th of 2015. And I turned around and never went back after that. It was one of the non-traditional ways to get clean. I kind of moved away from my problems and just had to get my mind clean, away from all of the same people that were kind of keeping me in this cycle. So I definitely have not gone back, because I just have a lot of bad memories there. And people will tell you a lot that it doesn't work to run away, but it's worked for me thus far. If it doesn't work later, then I will definitely have to deal with it. But as of right now, it worked. So I'm just kind of running with
5
it.
years is pretty successful, right?
Right.
I mean, that's a great success story. I think there's a lot of people in the treatment industry that will say, and they call it a geographical, where you move away from your problems, and how unsuccessful that is. On the other hand, what is wildly successful these days? Success is you sitting here 5 years clean and sober. And so, is it a great way to do it? I don't know. Probably not. But is there anything that's dramatically better than? No, I don't know. Treatment even isn't all that successful.
Ooh, so, I like you, Dr. Sellers. We are definitely going to have to chat more.
Well, we'll figure that out. But, so tell me, let's go with Amanda Marker. Tell me how old your kids are.
My son is 15. My oldest is 15. I have an 8-year-old daughter whose birthday is next week, and my son is 4.
Okay, names. Or if you don't want to, that's fine, actually.
Yeah. Alec is my oldest.
Okay.
And then my daughter, her name is Ariana, and my son is named after my late grandfather, and his name is Randy Hewlett.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. I want to know what you got planned for the birthday party.
Ooh, not much. It's a rough time out there.
Listen, all kids care about is the cake and ice cream.
Wait, she's how old now?
Presents.
She will be how old this?
She's turning 9 next week.
So you better start planning, because this needs to be kind of a big deal.
We're planning inside. I'm not risking all of the children running around sneezing on each other. Not right now.
Cool.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. What are schools doing in Philadelphia? Are you in Philadelphia? Is that where you are?
I'm closer to Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And our schools they're opening up. As of right now, I have my 15-year-old. He's doing a hybrid version of going into class and then doing the digital online stuff.
Okay.
And my youngest, who's in school, my daughter, she's going to be all online. She's had a lot of issues, going through school, getting sick constantly throughout the year. So I just don't want to risk that.
Sure. Awesome.
Yeah, play it safe.
That's hard. That's harder though. Having kids home than having them in school. I mean, having kids in school is a little bit of a respite for moms.
I want to back up and focus on something that Amanda said.
Okay.
She said, a lot of people may say you don't run from your problems, right?
Okay.
So I'm I'm not trying to get negative here, anybody, but the one thing, how can one person tell another person what their recovery looks like? Does that make sense? Like, I guess one thing I want to bring up is everybody's recovery is their own. And obviously 5 years, that's an amazing, that's a great goal to hit. Statistics say that you're 70% likely within your first year to relapse.
Oh, I think it's higher than that.
Oh, is it now?
Yeah.
The statistics I had were old?
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of different stats you can read. I don't think your stats are wrong, but I've read some higher numbers for sure.
Yeah. Have you ever dealt with
85% is a number I often quote.
As you're working in treatment centers, how do you deal with that? This is the ideal way to get clean, to stay sober.
I think you're making a good point, and Amanda, you can speak to this. The point is, first of all, you said, how can somebody tell somebody else what their recovery looks like? Well, first of all, don't say that, because that's the entire treatment industry, right? Don't tick everybody off. We'll be thrown off the air. But but what treatment hopefully does is A, teaches some coping mechanisms, and B, things that are slightly more successful than maybe just doing it by yourself. But again, I don't think they're way more successful. I think they're slightly more.
So really, it's an outliner, it's a blueprint to set people up to have the the best chance possible.
That's all we can do in treatment, right?
Yeah. So that's.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting to note. This is a really cool topic, I think, because it's interesting to note that what you did probably isn't quite as successful as going to residential treatment.
For most.
But it's not dramatically less successful.
Right.
I mean, just because treatment outcomes aren't as good as they could be now, and treatment centers are working on that. But if you ever, if you ever get a hold of a treatment center and they tell you their success rates are 60 or 70 or 80%, they're lying. That's not true. That's just not true.
Yeah.
Not that high. We're going to tick off all our treatment friends. Sorry.
Listen, this podcast is about recovery, and recovery comes in many different forms and
Yes,
many
it
different
does.
faces.
And there's the point. Treatment
Absolutely.
really does work well for a lot of people, but it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
It's not for Amanda Marker. She did it without that.
Well, I absolutely, if it was in my favor a little bit more as far as my circumstance, I have 3 children, stuff like that. Of course, my recovery is the most important thing, but it just wasn't possible for me. And rather than sitting around and just continue to use and continue to, stay sick, I just took initiative and started listening to TED Talks and meditating and working out and doing things to try to switch the old habits and get rid of them, because I think that was just kind of in early recovery, I just wanted to replace my bad habits with something else.
And replace.
Reminds me of a cheesy little quote, but I'm going to say it.
Yeah.
If I always do what I've always done, I'll always be where I've always been.
Or I'll always
That's
get what I've
right.
always got.
Right? Yeah. So, okay, Amanda.
So that's good. That's an interesting viewpoint. This is a fun topic, I think. Let's talk about that. So you just started trying to replace kind of what you had been doing with slightly more positive things. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir. That's exactly it.
Made a decision. You might have made a decision to turn your life over to the will of God as you know him, but whatever happened, you made a decision that you were going to try and do something different, right? Okay. So what prompted that decision?
Well, so back in 2015, I had been homeless for about a year, living in Southwest Florida, literally sleeping underneath a bridge.
Wait, stop right there. Stop.
Oops, sorry.
Where in Southwest Florida?
Dr. Sellers is from Florida.
Oh, yeah?
Dr.
I
Sellers.
lived in Cape Coral. It's
Okay.
around Fort Myers,
Nope.
Naples
Yep.
area.
I grew up in Clearwater, so
Well, there we go.
Yeah, so you're just down the coast from me. But sorry, I know that the listeners don't care about that at all, but suddenly I hear Florida, I get all excited. So
Yes, it is. It's exciting. It feels like a small world, when that happens. I love it.
And if you're going to live under a bridge, Florida's the place to live under a bridge, right?
That's
The
right.
weather's nice. So
Well, it was dreadfully hot. I definitely could say that, and the mosquitoes were just brutal.
Sure,
So
sure. But it's
Florida was
better than a
definitely
Philly
better
winter,
place.
right?
Yeah.
Better than sleeping
Yes.
under a bridge in a Philadelphia winter or a
Pittsburgh winter.
Pennsylvania winter, wherever you are.
I used to say that too.
Yeah. Okay, keep going. So you're homeless. You're essentially sleeping under a bridge.
Yes. My kids had been already, I had sent them to live with their fathers, and they just were not letting me speak to them at all, rightfully so. So it was kind of like a period of my life where I was grieving. I thought I was grieving my children, but I was actually grieving this person that I was growing away from. So it was kind of tough, but I knew that if I didn't do this, then I was going to just keep with the same cycle throughout my children's lives. So as hard as it was to not have my children around, and worrying constantly that they thought that I had just left them, like I had just left them, that was a lot to take in, and that was a lot to deal with, but it was exactly what I needed to get. When you get really super uncomfortable and everything's awful, there's, you can stay there and wallow, or you can just keep it moving. And that's what we did. We kept it moving. So
Nice
now
job.
I'm proud of it all. My children are very much so involved in the work that I do. And they're just these really phenomenal little human beings, they're amazing. So the guilt that we feel a lot for our children having to go through horrible things that we put them through as we were choosing drugs over them, it really does build a lot of strength and character as long as we pull ourselves out of it and they get to see that happen.
So guilt can be a motivator, right? A positive motivator, but only if you make a choice to do something different about it. If the other thing that guilt does is it makes us feel crappy about ourselves, and so you can take a choice of feeling that way about yourself, and if you do that, you have to cover that up with drugs and alcohol, or you can make a more positive choice and get rid of the guilt. Would you say your children maybe then were one of the big inspirations for you making changes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. When you consistently for years, because that's pretty much what it was. I had my son when I was very, very young. I was 17. And then I worked in bars and did bartending and worked in clubs in Southwest Florida. And it just got, this lifestyle, and it just became this horrible thing. So the guilt kind of just eating away at you for years and years and years, because you know damn well what you're doing and how it's affecting your children. That's absolutely the number one motivator. It was for me, at least.
So I made this connection with Amanda online.
Okay.
Yes.
Virtually through social media, Facebook.
So cool.
She's a powerhouse.
Yeah, right.
She does a marketing thing, right?
No question.
She's a powerhouse when it comes to marketing and growing your platform organically, they call it. And everything that you just got done talking about, as I'm sitting here, like I can just see your title. It's just, it fits it perfect. And I'm going to let you say it because it's yours. Duh. Go ahead.
Yes. I say we because it sounds more humble, but I have built this organization. It's called Pain to Purpose, and that's exactly our pain and the things that we've gone through, as horrible as they feel. They serve a great purpose. There's a lesson behind every single thing. Guilt is nothing but a misinterpreted message from our own soul. So it was kind of life-changing to be able to flip the script like that and realize that it didn't hurt. It was teaching me a lesson.
Yeah, that reminds me. So I read this thing, and it said, if you're having anxiety or you're having guilt, okay, you're basically punishing yourself twice. Because if I'm having anxiety about something, I'm miserable about it leading up to it. And then if it ends up going in a terrible way that I'm fearing it's going to go, then I experience that twice. Then if you have guilt on it, you experience it the first time it happened. And then afterwards, you're carrying that guilt with you. So you're just continuing to punish yourself. That's kind of the theme that keeps coming to me. The old, another cheesy saying, but if I have 1 foot in the past and 1 foot in the future, what am I doing to the present?
I don't have any idea, but I think you're going to start talking about bodily functions again. So I'm going to stay out of that.
I am wasting away the present, basically.
You're pissing on the present.
Yep.
That's what's happening.
That's the saying.
Yeah.
So I like it. I like it.
So good. nice transition, by the way, because I think this is where we want to be right now. And I got a little carried away with some of the backstory, which we can talk a little more about later. But so Pain to Purpose. Tell me what that does, what that organization is. What do you do? How do people contact you?
Right on. Pain to Purpose is a digital support center that I've kind of built. I have a lot of people who do volunteer work and help me do this stuff. We have nightly peer support meetings through Zoom so that people can not isolate. We do workshops with people. We have a 12-step workshop. I've created kind of like a digital workbook. So people are able to kind of just put their answers right into their phone. They don't need a printer or any of that stuff. And we're just really doing a lot of work. I look at it as kind of like experience, just kind of gaining experience that I need for bigger plans that I have later in the future.
That's awesome. So you're providing a platform for people to come together, people to get education, information on, to share their feelings, make it feel like they're not so isolated during COVID, because she's back east. It's not like St. George. People are walking around, unless you go to a grocery store. A lot of us don't have masks on. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but
People in the East are going to freak out if you say that. Don't tell her.
Yeah,
that.
I wouldn't say that.
Terry, you can't keep telling me not to say stuff I've already said, buddy.
Oh, that's a good point. Maybe I should warn you ahead of time.
But I do think that's amazing.
It's not nearly as crowded down here as it is back east.
Oh,
either.
yeah. We live in,
all of the United States population is east of the Mississippi, except for California and Texas. Man, we're here in Utah. We're nobody. Okay, I wanted to. Okay, what are my benefits of joining, and how do I join your organization?
We have a Facebook page. If you go to Facebook and search Pain to Purpose, I have a page. I have a group. We're also doing other stuff as far as different groups, but that's our main support center, is because we have those. We do workouts every morning with people. We do group meditation every morning, kind of trying to just provide a little bit of positivity, because I really think that, well, we've been working with these people, and they get a little bit of the feel for how good they start to feel after just kind of implementing a couple of these tools and these practices. And it really is, it's life-changing. It was for me. And I think that we're just going to keep going with it. So we do all of that online. We have a health and recovery section. We also have a kind of like for the nonprofit organizations and different mission statements about mental health and whatnot. We're building something there as well. So we got a lot of stuff going on over there. Facebook is kind of silly, but that's like just a front for everything. That's where everything is.
I don't think it's silly.
I'm sure at some point we'll move to YouTube and all that other stuff.
Okay,
but
so
for now we're on Facebook.
Right now I just go to Facebook and I look up Pain to Purpose.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You will find it.
All right.
I think there's one other group or page that was Pain to Purpose. But yeah, we've definitely kind of grown this and been building it up since December. So we have all kinds of live stories and stuff like that, people sharing. There's tons and tons and tons of stuff there. So you can find it that way.
That's awesome. It kind of reminds.
I got one more if you got it.
Go ahead.
Okay.
We're
down to like a little bit over a minute. So you hinted something that, and then smiled. Do you have a bigger dream than this?
Yes, sir, I do.
What is the big picture look like for you in the future? What is it you want to really accomplish?
So I am working on an app development. I'm working on a program for teenagers to serve as kind of like a preventative care, just kind of teaching emotional hygiene and things like that. And we are working on an app so that it's just convenient and recovery's there. You can find all the information, make connections with people, and kind of the workshops that we're doing. We've been building all kinds of different programs to kind of serve as a follow-up plan, like a follow-up treatment plan to the 12-step program. So that's soon to come.
Beautiful.
Excited about that one.
Yeah.
Amanda, you're amazing. If you guys are listening to this, please stay tuned. Join us for part 2. We're going to take a call for Dr. Sellers. We're also going to get into the journey into Amanda's recovery. Thank you so much.
You are listening to We Do Recover with Jared Miller and co-hosted by Dr. Terry Sellers. We'll be right back after the short break with more of We Do Recover with Jared Miller, brought to you by Steps Recovery Center and the St. George Hilton Garden Inn. We welcome you back to We Do Recover with Jared Miller, co-hosted by Dr. Terry Sellers, brought to you by Steps Recovery Center and the St. George Hilton Garden Inn. And now with part 2 of our podcast, Jared Miller and Dr. Terry Sellers.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Part 2 of episode 007 featuring Amanda Marker.
Beautiful. Hey, can I tell you something?
Yeah.
Last night, so I come down and we have a sponsor that provides our guests a hotel room. So nice of them, right? So, Amanda, by the way, if you ever get to St. George, Utah, we can get you a hotel room. You're welcome anytime. But I slept there last night, and it was amazing again. It's the Hilton Garden Inn is a beautiful place. Their pool is amazing. They do such a good job. Their hospitality is great. My bed was awesome. So, listen, it's always sunny and friendly at the Hilton Garden Inn, St. George.
One of these times I'm gonna come over. I'm just gonna like use your card to go sit in the hot tub and just hang out.
Come over and use the pool and the hot tub anytime. Their pool's great.
Yeah, my buddy Chris, man, he's awesome. He runs that place. So cool. We got a call. Are you ready?
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
And I just want to say
phone call
before we get to it.
Okay.
This is from my friend Amber, and she is amazing. She's probably one of my biggest supporters. Such a sweet person.
Great fan, no question.
Amanda, you can agree, right?
Absolutely.
Amber's awesome. All right, let's get to her call.
Thanks for calling, Amber.
Hi, this is Amber from Lehi, Utah, and I have a question for Dr. Sellers in regards to his take on legalizing weed. My question is because there's a lot of talk about it in the recovery, and are you sober, are you not sober? I'm just wondering if you know of any studies that they've done to prove its effectiveness in helping mental health, illness, recovery, addiction, and kind of your take on that. And the second part of the question that I have, and this could be for Jared as well, is that we've seen a rise in overdoses and with the pandemic and with everything that's going on. But I've also noticed that the biggest thing that I see personally is that overcoming the shame part of it, right? Overcoming the shame of coming back from a relapse, especially if you've had time or with, the meetings and things aren't as accessible, it seems like these days. What is the best way to overcome that shame and be able to come back and utilize the tools that we have? Again, I love you guys. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing the response and the communication on that. Have a great day.
Wow. So thanks, Amber, for the question. That was a great question.
Two questions.
It's 2 questions, and they're
awesome.
both unbelievably good questions, but super broad topics. Like, we could do episodes on the legalization of marijuana, and we could do episodes on how to get back into it if you've somehow relapsed. Those are both wonderful topics. Let me start tackling the legalization of marijuana.
Get it.
And it's going to be, I'm going to have to chop it way back because there really is a bunch of stuff here. So my thoughts are the following. we're calling it medical marijuana now, right? Now, some states for sure have legalized it recreationally. I have my thoughts on that too, by the way. Recreation used to be more than sitting on the couch eating Cheetos and smoking pot, right? I don't understand how that's recreation, but whatever. Pot does not motivate you to get off that couch and actually do recreation for sure. But we also call it medicinal marijuana. Okay, there's not a medicine in the history of the United States that's ever been approved the way that marijuana is being approved currently. Suddenly, we're just going to states and we're raising our hand and voting whether that's, or we're pulling a lever or we're punching out a ballot or whatever, and saying, hey, this stuff's now a medicine. That is not how we do medications in the United States. There's no medicine ever been done like that. So it's interesting that we call it medical marijuana because there's no other medicine done that way. I hate that concept right there. We have tons of problems with our healthcare system, but one of them isn't how unsafe our drug supply is. Do medications cause some problems? Oh, absolutely. But we have a safer medication supply than any other country on the planet because of the FDA. And again, I don't want to tackle the FDA. It's too broad of a topic. Okay, second part of the question. So anyway, I don't like that we're doing that.
Let me just ask you real quick though, because I've actually there's studies on like people with PTSD, right? Like vets that are coming back that struggle with PTSD. You know, antidepressants are a $2.1 billion industry, and a lot of the times it doesn't help them, or they switch back and forth from one to the other. Have you ever come across or heard of any situations where medical marijuana helps those people?
Sure. Don't ever interrupt me again, though.
Sorry.
I'm kidding. Yeah, and I do want to get to that, but I'll get to that sort of more towards the end because it is successful, and there are medical studies for a number of conditions that it's helpful for. There's no question about that. But we're ignoring the way that we do the process normally. We do the process, we study it, we look at the risks, benefits, side effects, all of that stuff, and then decide whether it's worthy of becoming a medication or not, right? Which we're not really doing with marijuana. So, second thought is we have prisons full of people that are in there for smoking or selling weed. I heard a story of a guy that got 27 years for selling an ounce of marijuana. That is absurd.
Crazy.
That's absurd. I don't love marijuana because I treat addiction a lot, but I also don't think anybody should be locked away in prison for massive amounts of time over a marijuana charge. I don't love legalizing it, but that's another story, and people can argue that. I think there should be something as far as punishment if we're going to be selling that stuff, but that's another argument, and people can argue the other side, and with good arguments. That's okay. They might have legitimate arguments for that. That's a whole different topic. Okay, let me tell you what the studies have shown about marijuana. First of all, the people say it does all kinds of things. Seizures, for example. It does help a few people with seizures, but we have tons of seizure medications, which are just as safe. There may be a couple of different subtypes of seizures that respond better to marijuana than other medications, but that's a very small group of people. Probably helps glaucoma. Probably helps spasticity and multiple sclerosis. What else have the studies shown? Anxiety, the studies are mixed. For a lot of people, it helps anxiety, but if you smoke marijuana and think the cops are hiding outside in the trees, that's not helping your anxiety at all. And that is a side effect sometimes. Paranoia is a side effect of marijuana. Schizophrenia is you are more likely to develop schizophrenia if you are smoking pot than if you do not smoke pot. The question out there is, does the pot cause the schizophrenia, or is it latent schizophrenia that was going to come out anyway and the marijuana just brings it out? Right. I don't know that answer. I don't think we have that answer totally yet, but she asked about studies on mental health. Most of your studies on mental health show not really much help in anxiety, although occasionally. increase in your risk of developing schizophrenia, which is terrible. PTSD has shown some promise, and I definitely have seen some studies about that, and it can be helpful sometimes for PTSD. I can't think of, not sure if I can think of any other mental health conditions. I don't think I can come up with studies that have been done about depression. It might help chronic pain. The problem with that is the opiate addicted patient all think, well, I'll use marijuana because it's not nearly as bad as opiates. And marijuana is probably not nearly as bad as opiates. But there are studies out there that show that smoking marijuana does not decrease opioid use amongst opioid addicts.
Well, and if you want my opinion, she asked in the very beginning, are you still clean?
That's it.
No, that's a flat out no.
Well, okay, so let's compare it to Suboxone, right?
Okay.
If you take Suboxone at a doctor's order and you do it exactly like the doctor says, you for sure are clean.
If you're getting it from a medical facility and you're doing it the way you're supposed to be doing, I guess there's
Let's
some
say a
argument to
doctor has
that.
prescribed it for something that it's known to work for, and you take that prescription as prescribed. You're clean.
Yeah.
Depends on, to me, it's all in here, and we can't judge that from other people. But what's your motivation for using marijuana? Is it to check out for a minute?
Yeah.
Because if that is, you're not clean. That's not clean. Sorry. If your motivation is, I can't find anything else that helps my seizures, and I'm going to try this, and it helps your seizures, you're so clean, it's unbelievable. So
yeah, good point. So real quick, let's just take a minute to address the second part of that question. I want to save some time for our guest here, Amanda.
Yeah.
So guilt.
Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead and tackle that?
No, this isn't necessarily my question.
Okay.
Guilt is not a medical condition, right? I think you and Amanda can answer this every bit as well as I can, or better. And I've been talking so much that the people are getting tired of me. So
That's not true.
I want to hear other opinions. Let's see what you guys think about guilt and how do you get back to recovery if you've relapsed and you feel really guilty about it.
Amanda, I'm gonna let you go first.
Oh man! Oh wow!
Right on. I definitely I do work with a lot of people, and sometimes they'll come back and say that they've relapsed on, something, and they feel really ashamed. They didn't want to talk about it. And that's what we're kind of fighting here. This is what you're doing, right? We're trying to kind of nip that stigma in the bud and make sure that recovery is cool. So people keep coming back. They see it, they get a taste of it, and they like it, and they love it, and they want to continue that. When they do get sidetracked and relapse, then they still have this in the back of their mind, knowing that this can be, what they need. So I think it just takes a little bit of courage. Reach out to somebody, anyone, and most people will tell you the same thing. Don't be ashamed. That's what we're all fighting against.
That's a great answer.
That was a good answer.
Mine is going to be, if you fall down 8 times, you get up 9. Right? Yeah. I mean, we all know relapse is part of recovery. And look, we're talking about addiction, but I can make this anything. Bring me any diet. Okay, if I'm doing really good on my diet, I'm losing weight, I'm feeling good, and then all of a sudden I go out and I splurge. Yeah. What do you do the next day? You wake up, you knock it off, you get back to your diet, you brush your shoulder off, and you move forward.
No, you keep eating the creme brulee.
Right.
Oh, come on, Dr. Sellers.
This is why I look like I do, and you look like you do.
But, it's like in school. You're going to school. I miss an assignment. What do? Well, you get back on track, you make up the assignment, and you get back after it.
Right.
I think everybody, they fear relapse so much that they start to give it energy. When they give it energy, it's going to manifest itself.
That's a good point.
Look, if you've experienced a relapse, the best thing you can do is just like when
Call
you did.
somebody.
Macklemore has a great song. Holy cow, this just popped into my head.
Yeah. Macklemore does
Starting
a lot of great
over.
music about addiction. For
Yeah,
sure.
Macklemore, starting over. If I can be an example of getting sober, I can be an example of starting over, right? Get back on the horse and get after it.
Yep.
That's my opinion.
The other thing I'd like to point out that we sometimes think is people relapse and they think, oh, I just lost my 22 years of sobriety. You didn't lose a thing.
You just lost
You
your
learned
date.
a whole bunch of things in that 22 years.
That's right.
You haven't forgotten a single one of those things. Okay, you get back on the horse and you realize that all the stuff you did for 22 years worked for 22 years. It'll work for the next 22.
You know, and I don't really
Keep
mind
doing it.
I don't really mind so much that you made the mistake and you relapse. The thing, in my opinion, that's the most important is what you do next.
Yeah, for sure.
If you take that relapse and you use it as a pity thing and, well, I messed up, I might as well, right, use again. Well, guess what? Now you're, instead of just a relapse, you're back into active addiction.
Right.
And listen, there's people that have died from this disease we call addiction. So in my opinion, I'm not so much focused on get over the shame of it, make the next right choice, and get back on track.
Way to hold your tongue there.
Otherwise, you're just going to be right back in the depths of your addiction that you started in the first place.
Yeah, excellent point. Reach out, people. We need to help each other.
Absolutely.
If somebody relapses, we need to do everything we can to help them not feel that shame. Help them feel welcome back. Welcome to this group again. Welcome back to my life again. You are invited into my life, and you'll always have a spot there. Please come back.
Beautifully said.
All right, Amanda Marker.
Yes, sir.
All right, we talked way too long. I apologize.
Oh, you're good.
But I want to know, tell me about it. Tell me when you started, let's go back to the beginning of drug use. What got you started? How did you get to a point where you were addicted and a slave to drugs or alcohol?
Just for a few minutes, what was your DOC, your first use?
My drug of choice by the end of my addiction was crack cocaine. But it was, I overdosed the first time I was in 6th grade. I was at school.
Whoa.
I took my mom's Tegretol. It was a seizure medication that she had. And I took a bunch of it. I had to go, the ambulance came to my school. I had to go next door, and they handed me a big cup of this black mush charcoal. Yeah. Ugh. And they make you drink it. And you're lucky if you drink that, because other times they pump your stomach, which happened to me the next time that happened. So it was kind of a lifelong thing. I had no connection or relationships. My family was very distant. There was just a lot of problems that my mom, she was going through, and she just didn't have any kind of emotional hygiene herself. So she wasn't able to teach it to us. And I started with the opiates after, I think I was 18 or 19.
So wait, I missed. So that first use was Tegretol, you said, right?
Yes.
You were 12 years old. You were in 6th grade.
Right.
What prompted you? Was there anything going on in your life or your mind that said, I need to take all the Tegretol in my mom's bottle?
You know, and that's something I didn't know back then. But
was it a suicide attempt, or that's my question, really?
No, it wasn't. It was definitely more so just behavioral patterns that I had picked up from my mother, and just didn't realize it at that point in my life. I was just too young.
In that stage of life, it's mirroring. If you think about it, she's still mirroring Dr. Sellers, right?
No question.
Right. Absolutely.
Good question.
Yeah, good point too. Okay, keep going. So, Tegretol the first time.
Yeah, and then I ended up going to the doctors. I had some stomach pains. They told me that I had a cyst or some cysts that had ruptured on my uterus.
They say
prescribed
they say that when they can't find anything else, by the way.
I think I learned that recently, but back then I believed it. You know, and so they gave me Percocet, and they gave me a medication to reverse the nausea, and I had an allergic reaction to the nausea medication, and I didn't even realize it. I was having stomach problems and didn't know what withdrawal was, but I ended up starting to feel this withdrawal, and then somebody at work told me what this withdrawal was. So then it became real in my head, and it just spiraled for a long time after that. By the time I was right before I was homeless, I was doing large amounts of heroin every day, IV heroin. I got caught from my husband. We were not married at the time. He found all of the junk and the crap, and he lost it. He hated it. there was a good portion where I was stealing and just robbing people and doing anything that I could to kind of get my next fix. And that landed me on the streets. I was homeless. I had lost my children at that point.
So
and it was kind of something.
Did you later marry him, or had you married him and you were divorced by that point?
I'm married to him now. Yes.
Oh, okay.
We got back together. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you must be incredible.
Congratulations.
I don't know.
That's awesome.
Well, I would say, listen, he caught you using drugs and freaked out, and yet you are still together. So that says something about you.
Thank you for sharing that with us too. What the question I want to transition this into in our last 5 minutes is, I want to hear about when you mustered up the strength to turn your life around. What did that look like, right? What was some triggers? How did you deal with them? If I'm listening to this and I'm early I always think about the listener. If I'm listening to this and I'm in early recovery and I'm experiencing triggers, how did you deal with it? What were some of the jobs that you first had that maybe you didn't absolutely love, but you kept trucking and kept going? Tell us about that.
You mean once I'd already gotten clean?
Yeah, when you were in early recovery.
So I think back then it was my grandfather. It kind of happened to where the day after I got here, after I made the decision to leave Florida, we got a call. My grandfather pretty much raised me, and he was in the hospital. He had just had a heart attack, his second heart attack. So we left right that night, went to New York and stayed in the hospital with him for 6 days. And he ended up passing away and dying. And there was a tremendous amount of guilt that I had. I had ignored him and not spoken to him because I was so ashamed of the things that I was doing. So it really kind of hit me in the face, big time. And I think that I knew that the only way that I could ever find a way to be okay with the fact that I had not spoken to him was to just really change it and to really just make sure that I wasn't disappointing him, because he can see me now. He couldn't see me then, but he can see me now. So that made a big difference.
Again, guilt as a motivator, right?
Mm-hmm.
So guilt to action is the equivalent of your pain to purpose.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pain has a purpose, and so does guilt. That purpose is to motivate us to do something differently. And you had tremendous guilt and you did something differently. So that's awesome.
Yes.
So what were some of the triggers that you faced?
I definitely have had a lot of issues with people in recovery who are. I reached out and started reaching out to people in groups, and the first kind of thing that I grabbed hold of was AA and NA, and it was just it was a process to kind of go through that and to realize what parts of that program and that was keeping me very small and sick, and I definitely don't live by that one day at a time anymore. I did for the first part of my recovery. I definitely was just trying to survive every day sober. But that has to shift, right? Just like if you get surgery and you have a wound and your aftercare is going to be this at this point, but later it's going to shift. You're going to have to change the things that you're doing, and the treatment plan that you're following. So it's definitely been difficult to do that without a sponsor, I guess. I definitely didn't have a sponsor. But I reached out and I found a recovery coach online. They're everywhere. Find them because they're amazing and they want to help you. Everyone wants to help. That's something that, like you were saying earlier, people in recovery, they really do just want to help. So when you let someone help you, you're helping them.
Yeah, I love that. And I've heard people talk about that, right? Sometimes they struggle with the NA or AA thing, but they have a thing that they say it's about principles, not personalities, right? Mm-hmm. It's about the teachings, not necessarily the people in the circles. But that doesn't have to be the only avenue. It's not Amanda's.
For sure. AA, in my mind, AA is perfect. And then you add,
Yeah.
and then you add human beings to it, and every one of them is an alcoholic.
Well said.
Yes.
Recovered alcoholic, which is not necessarily the perfect place to go for mental health, right?
Right.
AA in it of itself the program is perfect, but it's run by people.
Imperfect
Yes.
people.
It's run by people that started out imperfect and are still imperfect, and so it doesn't work for everybody. That's nothing bad about AA. That's just about the people in AA, and they're all good and wonderful people, but I don't get along with everybody in my life, and neither do you.
Yep.
Right.
So,
It's not people.
So you took a concept, an AA concept, a sponsor, and you just morphed it a little bit is all, right? You found a recovery coach.
Yes.
It's a concept that works. It does not have to be a sponsor.
You are a great example, Amanda. I just want to say thank you. We got 15 seconds here. I just want to say you're a great example. Listen, if you're listening to this, please like it,
Pain to purpose.
comment, share, right? Thank you guys so much. We look forward to next week, episode 008. Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you for joining us today on We Do Recover with Jared Miller.
Help us spread our message of hope. Like
That on our Facebook page.
that Facebook page is We Do Recover with Jared Miller. If you or a loved one needs help, please reach out to us. Again, thank you for listening.
Brought to you by Steps Recovery Center and the St. George Hilton Garden Inn. This has been a production from a podcast studio.